Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to our fourth day of virtual VBS. And today we're going to be talking about another very, very familiar Bible story to us. It's all about Jesus walking on the water. And today we're going to be getting armored up for faith. Armored up for faith. Today's story is really going to be all about faith. So, Jesus and his disciples had just finished doing something already miraculous. Jesus had fed 5,000 people with just somebody's lunch. Just a little tiny lunch. He took it and prayed over it and broke it and fed 5,000 people. And they were full. And Jesus' disciples had just witnessed this and they were amazed at what had happened. And like Jesus always did, after he did that, he needed to rest and to recover. And so he told his disciples, you guys get on a boat and go across the Sea of Galilee. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. And he went up to the mountain and he rested and he prayed because he knew that after great power had gone out of him, he needed to rest and to be restored. It's a great lesson for you and I to learn as well. We need to take time apart to be rested and to be restored. Now that night, as the disciples were sailing across the water, as would often happen there, a great big storm came and overtook them, and it was really bad. It wasn't quite as bad as a hurricane, but it was a really, really bad storm, and it was rocking this ship back and forth. And this was a little tiny ship. This was not anything massive by any standard. And it was rocking the boat that they were in, and they were really afraid. And all of a sudden, as they're looking around and being terrified, they look out there and they see somebody walking on the water. And they think to themselves, it's a ghost. So not only are we in trouble, the ship's going down, here comes a ghost. They were very, very afraid. And then they hear Jesus' voice call out to them, it's me. And Peter, being one always the first to open his mouth, says, if it's you, Lord, have me walk to you. Jesus is like, well, come on. And so Peter gets out of the boat. And Peter's looking at Jesus intently. And the whole time Peter's looking at Jesus, he's able to walk on the water. And he's walking toward Jesus. But as he's getting close to Jesus, all of a sudden, he starts to look around at everything else. And he looks down at the water and looks out at the wind, and maybe he heard, a big thunder crash or something. But then Peter starts to sink. And right before he goes under, Jesus reaches down and grabs him and puts him in the water. And he's like, why did you have so little faith? You were doing fine. Now, what's the moral of this story? What's the life lesson for you and I? And that's all about faith. You see, as long as Peter had his eyes totally fixed on Jesus, he could walk on that water. There was no doubt. It didn't matter the circumstances that Peter was in, right? And he was in dire circumstances. He was surrounded by churning water and lightning and wind and rain and all of these things that were very much a real harm to him. But as long as he had his eyes on Jesus, he's able to walk in the midst of that storm. Well, boys and girls, that's our lesson. As long as we have our eyes fixed on Jesus, as long as we're looking at Jesus, we too can walk through all the storms of life, whatever they may be. And life is full of those things. Here we are having a virtual Bible study. Why? Because there's a virus loose out there. And it's a scary time, but if we have our eyes fixed on Jesus, we can continue to move forward and not become fixated on all those things around us. You see, we keep our eyes focused on Him, who He is and what He's done. He can feed the 5,000. He can walk on water. He can raise the dead. He can do all these things. If our eyes are focused on Him, then we too can walk through the life circumstances without any fear or doubt. Now, let's talk about our armor piece for today. Today we're talking about putting on the shield of faith, right? And a shield is very, very, very important, right? It is how you defend yourself against the attacks of your enemies, right? And the shield of faith is the faith that we have in Jesus. Well, what is faith? So faith is sort of this idea of putting our trust in something. Trust and faith are really the same sort of word. You trust your chair to hold you, right? You don't push on it and make sure it's a good chair before you just sit down in it. Same thing. Faith in Jesus is sitting down in Him and relying on Him and believing in who He is and what He's he's done. And so the shield of faith is the faith in what Jesus has completed. We use that to defend against the lies, the fiery darts or the lies that Satan wants to come and tell us about ourselves and about our faith and about God. We defend ourselves against those with this. And so we need to put on that shield of faith on a daily basis so that we can add to that understanding that we have and defend ourselves against all the attacks from the devil. Well, all right, boys and girls, that's the end of our lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you one more time for Vacation Bible School. See you next time.